Welcome back to Navigating Your Retirement with our host, Travis Chance. I'm your co host, Tony Shore. And Travis, how have you been? You're busy, right? I know that. We can just get that out of the way, put that off the table. I know you're
Oh,
crazy busy over there, right?
yeah, I carry a set of matched luggage under my eyes because I'm generally just sitting dormant. No,
Yep,
no,
you have family,
uh,
young children, you have your work,
uh,
and all the time you spend working for your
and
clients,
it's tax season,
and
and
it's
of
tax
course
season.
we assist our clients with filing their taxes. So,
Sure.
um, yeah, with all of that being said, Tony, it is certainly busy around the Chance household and the CFG offices.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I'll tell you what, taxes are on everybody's mind. There's a lot going on with the global geopolitical area and oil prices. But today, we're talking about. I love your title for the show. Should I stay or should I go? The old
The
Clash
Clash,
song, The
yeah.
Clash. Yep, love it. Love that song. There's an interesting story about that song. I'll just really quick tell for our listeners
Okay.
before you jump in.
All right.
And I heard a story that to get that really raw, like distorted bass sound that's in that song, it's very distorted and
Mm,
has a unique sound. The studio where they were recording, they went up on the roof, and the building's very narrow, like maybe a foot and a half between the buildings.
mm,
They lowered the bass amp down on a rope in between the two buildings.
hmm.
So you couldn't, there wasn't enough room to walk, but there's this little gap. And they lowered the amp in between the two buildings, lowered a mic down there, ran the cords to the recording unit and mixing, and then they recorded the bass sounds to get that distorted sound that way for that song. Uh,
Tony, only you would know that tidbit.
Isn't that crazy? I know none
It's
of our listeners might care, but they used to try something.
oh, yeah.
I worked with a producer in LA that they wanted a certain sound, and they would try all these things. There was a long hallway between the living quarters and the recording studio, and they'd put an amp at one end and put the mic at the other end of this long, tall ceiling hallway, and
Mhm.
got this weird echoey sound. And of course, this is back in the day when they used real tape. These are the late
Mhm.
80s, and the 80s. And nowadays, you just get whatever sound you want out of the computer. They
Right,
don't
you
have
can
to try
synthesize.
that. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people put amps in bathtubs and record they literally record in the shower to get sounds on really big records by major artists. That was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now the creativity is, I think, gone out of it with
Ever
computers.
since sampling.
Yes, sampling ruined it.
Ever since sampling, it's
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, I don't need to create the bass line. I don't need to create the
I'll
hook.
steal it.
I'll just steal it," like Jay-Z said. Well, I think it was Jay-Z said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." So I'll just go ahead and take that.
Right. All right. Well, hopefully we don't have to borrow or steal when it comes to where we live in retirement, right, Travis? I mean,
Tony, that is a topic I think everyone has either mentioned to themselves or mentioned to their spouses or read about it. And you open any Google search, anything on retirement, it's a lot of it's going to cover real estate. Because when people retire, a lot of times they tend to start thinking, is this where we want to stay? Do we want to be here permanently? Kids have moved off, whatever. We're going to talk about all that this morning. But one of the things I did, just a random search, right? Top 5 most popular states. I'm going to start here. Most popular states for retirement and the least popular. And the list was some level. It was the most popular was kind of like, okay, I see that, a couple of surprises. And then the cons, I was a little bit surprised on that too. But that's what we're going to talk about is, with today's elevated home prices,
mhm.
is now the time to start tapping your home equity, maybe filling in some of those voids if you had some retirement shortfalls, or you thought your savings would be a little better than it was, is now the time to start, maybe saying, hey, we're going to sell our home for X and buy a condo for half of X and just use that as a difference maker. So, but let's kind of think through this. But let's talk through before about the top 5 states, Tony. You're going to guess number one.
Georgia has to be number one.
Actually, Georgia's not on the list.
Georgia has to be number
Georgia's
one.
not on the list. Now,
it's God's country. Why wouldn't you want to retire there?
But it is a snowbird's haven because, or at least it should be, because if you come here between the months of July and October, you are just a glutton for punishment because it's hotter than the devil's underwear.
Just a little humidity.
You've got
devil's underwear.
You got mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds. Gnats look like golf balls flying through the air.
Right.
It is chaos for about 3-4 months out of the year. Now, right now, if you come down here, Tony, the weather is absolutely fantastic. But the difference between Georgia and Minnesota is you have whiteouts quite often. We have yellow outs all the time in the spring because pollen down here, we call it Georgia snow, or southern snow, because you walk outside and your vehicle, no matter what color it is, it's yellow. It is just thick. So
wow.
So Georgia is not on the list. It might be number 6, but it didn't come up in the top 5. But number 1 should make no one's surprise list. Florida's number 1.
That's what I would have guessed.
No state income tax. It's warm just about all year. I mean, my goodness, even when we go take the kids on vacation in December, you're wearing shorts. That's terrific. It's got a lot of large retirement communities. It's got the villages. Excellent amenities for seniors, a lot of golf. And right now with the current environment, Florida's seeing a lot of inflows, right? A lot of your states are seeing outflows, but Florida is certainly not one. They're seeing inflows. Number 2,
Arizona,
North Carolina, because it has two features. It's got mountains and beaches, right? If you go into the western side, you got mountains. You go to the Outer Banks or to the east side, you have beaches. But once again, a lot of golf as well. You got Myrtle Beach. You got a lot of areas around Asheville, up around the Biltmore.
Asheville's beautiful.
Beautiful weather, beautiful areas.
The Biltmore.
And
the Biltmore estate near Asheville.
Yeah.
Came this close to buying that place.
I will tell you, you probably
from the Vanderbilt.
The upkeep might get you. It might not be the initial price, but the upkeep might get you. It's 250 homes and it stays under construction. It's kind of like my house.
It's always under construction.
Always under construction. Don't get me started. Okay.
Your home is like an airport, Travis. Every time I talk to you, there's contractors stiffing you or not showing up.
Folks, I don't know if you follow my story, but if you ever want to have an absolute belly laugh, you should listen to some of my contractor stories, because oh my God in heaven, I've got a couple of new ones I don't even want to get into because my face will be as red as fire in about 2 seconds. So don't distract me. You're distracting me.
I'm sorry.
All right. So that's number 2. Number 3, Arizona. Same thing. Warm weather just about all year. Nights get a little cool, but warm weather predominantly, large adult activity, golf and, all the things, right?
Those top 3 make perfect sense to me.
But it also has lower housing costs than in some areas, which actually surprised me as well. But
it does actually.
The 2 that I could see one of these, but I think they're in reverse order. Number 4 on the list was actually South Dakota. I don't know anybody that wants to move to South Dakota as a destination
because they still get winters. There's nothing to look at.
The reason for it, top 3 reasons to move to South Dakota, guys, if you're looking for a spot, here it is. No state income tax, affordable living, and high rankings for retirement friendliness, Tony. So, I guess there is something to say for being friendly. And by the way, go Bison. South Dakota State. All right. So Colorado, we have number 5, high quality health care, active lifestyle opportunities, hiking and outdoor activities, etc. And outdoor recreation, number one reason. So retirees typically they're going to follow sunshine, lower taxes, and strong healthcare systems, and and evidently that's the list, right?
Yeah, I think South Dakota has some of the lowest taxes overall when it comes to property
No,
tax
no, yeah,
and
no,
state
very
tax,
low
everything.
property,
All the
no
taxes there are
income.
pretty
Yep.
low, yeah, but unless
Uh,
I mean, other than the Black Hills and the Badlands, over on the far west side,
uh-huh.
trust me, I grew up next in the Minnesota-South Dakota border near it, so I spent a lot of time I lived in Sioux Falls doing radio for a while, South
Okay.
Dakota, and,
You were the one.
Sioux Falls is a nice town, but that land is flat, they
Uh-huh.
still get winter, and it's pretty
It's
desolate
brutal.
out there.
Yeah.
It is
All
desolate.
right. Number one, least most popular state. So we got the top five most popular: Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, South Dakota, Colorado.
Yep,
Five
makes
least
sense.
popular. Kentucky was number one. But it is not because the Bluegrass State is not a terrific location. They
It's
have the
beautiful.
bourbon. They have the Bourbon Tour. They've got the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
They've got a number of reasons to move to Kentucky, but
Lexington, Louisville, great
they
cities.
have the worst health care in the country. That was kind of surprising. I wasn't really prepared for that one. That was number one. Number
Mm,
one reason ranked worst in 2026 retirement studies due to healthcare shortages and health outcomes.
yeah.
Number two, Oklahoma, limited access to healthcare providers and medical facilities. That's all. That seems like a pretty common theme. Mississippi, number three, same thing. Low quality healthcare, economic challenges. West Virginia, healthcare concerns,
Yeah.
economic limitations. And number five, which I always thought was everybody's dream, right? Hawaii. But it's because it's so doggone expensive.
Nobody can
Um,
afford to live there. The
yeah.
costs are
it-
crazy.
well, it's not just the cost of living, while you're out and about and, buying groceries and doing your thing. Whenever you get into a long-term care situation, skilled nursing, assisted living, etc., also typically number one, number two, kind of flip-flops during that segment, for extended
Cost.
care, for
Yeah.
life, long-term care and life after you are no longer active. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
thought that was
housing
pretty
costs
interesting.
in general there. To
Oh
live
yeah,
there is outrageously
it's
expensive.
incredible.
Yeah.
But Tony, what are some of the reasons why people want to think about doing that? It's because they work their whole lives, they pay off their home, they're now in retirement, and they start thinking, kids have moved away.
We could live
Oh,
anywhere we want.
we can live wherever we want because obviously we have freedom now. Desire for warmer weather, financial pressures. Maybe like I said, they look at their home as an opportunity to kind of fill some of those retirement income needs. But there are some downsides and some pros and cons. Let's face it, we're going to try to touch both of them on moving and when it makes sense and when it's actually maybe smarter to stay put. So let's talk about why retirees consider moving. Well, number one is lifestyle changes. Empty
Mm.
nesters, as we talked about, desire for travel, maybe wanting a simpler life. I know for me, and I'm just going to give you what Shannon and I've talked about. When I'm starting to get really close to number 50, right? And I know I'm much closer to retirement than I am not from retirement. So, I'm thinking any
You
decision.
got a ways to
Well,
go,
but
yeah.
20 years from now, I didn't
Sure.
think the last 20 years would have gone as fast as it's gone, but the
Oh, it
next 20
flew by.
years, it seems like it's getting faster and faster. So
It does as you get older, trust
when
me.
when we're making decisions, we think about things like that. Like I'm sitting there having a conversation with Shannon, and I'm like, babe, do we really want to have stairs in our house? Right? Do you want to have a second floor when you're in retirement and have to go up and down, a big flight of stairs?
It's the
No.
number one reason why my wife and I are looking to sell our house and
Yeah,
move. We want a house we can age in,
exactly.
gracefully, and so we're looking at a one level. I'm talking about, and I'll tell you what, up here in Minnesota, they're hard to find. One level homes,
Mhm.
because they don't build new one level homes.
Right.
Because, and I've asked everybody, I've asked real estate experts, contractors, they said it's cheaper to build up than
Yeah.
it is out.
'Cause
And
less square footage under
yeah.
roof,
You
less
can't find
foundation.
slab homes
Yeah,
here either. Like a one level that's just built on a slab, they all have basements, and
right.
I don't even want a basement. I want 0 stairs. I want a place where we can age in place, and it's freezing cold here. So
Tony, some people want, extra amenities, like they want a pot filler, they want an extra big island. You know what I
sure.
want?
Oh,
I
yeah.
want handicap accessible doors all through my house.
Same. The
I
wider the door,
I want
the
it to be
easier it
wide
is to
enough
get
where I can
stuff in
fit
and out.
furniture,
Yes.
wheelchair,
Yes.
whatever. I want to be able. I don't want to have to go back and renovate later on.
Yeah, why don't they design homes with at least one big
Right.
door
Yeah.
level, ground level where you can just it's big and you can just wheel stuff in? Why don't they make it wider? I mean, I know it's a little more expensive, but they should make one level houses just like that. And I suppose
Absolutely.
they do in like certain 55 plus communities. Maybe the
Mm,
villages have houses like that. I
mm.
don't know.
Yeah, Sun City does over here around Bluffton where we are,
Oh, sure.
but so we, wanting a simpler life, we're talking about lifestyle changes, folks, but there's also other reasons why retirees move other than just Tony and I's rants. The financial motivation, unlocking home equity, lowering
Sure.
property taxes. That's huge right now
Oh,
because property taxes across the country have just skyrocketed.
mine doubled
Yeah, mine have
in the
tripled
last year.
over the last 7 years. They've tripled.
Oh, yeah.
So, do we really want to take those big expenses going into retirement? The answer for most people is obviously not. But you also, like you and I just talked about, health and accessibility, single story homes. How close is it to quality health care? Not just being able to open up the footprint and be able to have it more handicap accessible or elder care accessible, but also the community around you, the healthcare it provides, et cetera. So,
Right.
but you know what? Moving sounds great on paper, but there's a lot of trade-offs, right?
Oof, yeah.
It's not just cut and dry, right? So let's talk about the pros of downsizing or moving. Number one, reduced expenses. That could come in the form of lowering utilities, maybe lowering property taxes, lowering maintenance costs. Obviously, if your home is much smaller, maybe that decreases the probability that you're going to have, excessive roof leaks and, have other issues, which I'm going to be honest, put a pin in that for a second. If we ever build, I'm not building I don't want to say what I was about to say. I don't want to build anything that is not brick or is not actually a permanent surface. I don't want anything that can rot. I don't want, so it's got to be hardy board or concrete board and brick. It better not have a stitch of wood on the outside. Simply because, think about it, maintenance costs. You got to paint it. You
Yeah.
got to fix it. Carpenters, trying to find a good carpenter is literally like finding a needle in the haystack.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
or in the meth. I'm sorry, that was terrible. I shouldn't have said that. But Lord forgive me for that one. But you have also you could have access to your home equity, not just lowering your maintenance costs, folks. Access your home equity. Selling a large home can free up cash. It can boost retirement savings. It can simplify your lifestyle. Like I said, maybe like for me, I want to downsize our home, Tony, because it's 2-story and I want my weekends back. I don't feel like having to go out and pressure wash and clean the siding and clean the outside and do all the flower beds. And I know I could hire someone to do it, but there again, in my area, yeah, probably not. Trying to
Mhm.
find someone that's going to do your job or the job you want done is probably
Right.
going to be pretty hard.
Yeah.
But all that upkeep, it brings stress. So getting rid of it means what? Less stress. You might also want to move because maybe you want to move closer to family. Maybe you want to have access to your support network. Like, maybe you grew up north and or vice versa. You grew up in, say, Georgia, and you moved up to Philadelphia to work, and you spent your life, and you're like, you know what? All my cousins, nieces, nephews, everyone's in Macon, Georgia, wherever, and you
Right.
end up trying to migrate back because that's where your support system is. That's where
Yeah.
your family's located. Also gives you more access potentially to your grandkids. You move closer to your children. Maybe they take a job in Dallas,
So
Texas.
many
Yeah,
people, it's everything's centered around their
yeah,
grandkids as far as
absolutely.
where they live in retirement. Yeah.
And there was a study recently that said grandparents who babysit live longer. So, hey, maybe there's something there too. So, there you go. But you really want to think about that. That is only one side of the argument. Pros, everyone can find the pros, but let's talk about some of the cons, right? I want to keep us on track, Tony, for time. So, think
Sure.
about some of the cons. Cons, you have realtor fees, you got moving expenses, you have renovations if you're not buying a brand new home. Obviously, take it from me, that never stops. Emotional attachment. maybe that's the house that your kids grew up in. Maybe that's a house that's been in your family for years. Maybe you have longtime neighbors that have started to become family. It's a familiar place for you. It's a familiar community. All of these things that have emotional attachment sometimes even outweigh the financial cost, because we have a permanent connection to the things that trigger our emotions, and emotional attachment is certainly something that we have to consider. We've already talked about lifestyle adjustments. I don't want to belabor that point too much, but some of the surprises, a lot of times if you move to a planned unit community, or you move to like a villages, or you move to one of these 55 and over subdivisions, you may have HOA fees that you weren't used to paying, where you think you're reducing your taxes. Then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I'm not saving any money because I'm paying a $500 HOA fee a month, or whatever it is. So these are all things that you need to really consider. And of course, if you rush the decision, maybe you move too early, or even move too late, maybe you can't enjoy the things, you thought you were going to be playing golf in perpetuity, and 2 years down the road, maybe a hip, a knee, something happens, and you're like, crap, we've already relocated here. We have this HOA fee that includes a golf membership or whatever, and I'm not using it, right? That could cause some buyer's remorse, and maybe some regret. So list of questions you may want to ask, right, Tony? I know we try to give on the show list of things and things to think about, but this might truly be, we talk about lowering taxes in retirement. Well, what about this? Financial questions. What are you doing that's truly going to lower your monthly expenses? Make sure you don't forget to itemize all these things, right? The cost, the electric bill, potentially the tax bill, the homeowner's insurance in your area. What if you move to a coastal area and now you have to carry flood insurance, or you have to
Yeah.
carry additional peril insurance?
Florida, hurricane
Well,
windows,
that's what I was going to say.
aren't cheap,
Hurricanes,
and
a lot of
insurance.
times, you have to check, does your policy have different coverage if there's a named storm? A lot of people were kind of taken aback when they figured out, once it becomes named, the coverages do not stay the same. And how long will it take to break even if you have to do that significant investment, like you said, for renovation and storm doors and storm windows and all this stuff? So,
Yep.
Last but certainly not least, whenever I'm thinking about things clients should ask, Tony, is family considerations and long-term care planning. And I hate to say that, but it goes
Big
hand
one.
in hand,
Yeah.
because at some point, I hope you never need it. I hope I never need it. But as we become older, we will become frail.
Yeah.
We may never need to go into a facility, but the chances are we're going to be able to carry on the same activities at 80 that we do right now. Probably not.
For
So
people who live over 65 years of age, if you make it to 65, the stats from the government website,
there's a
longtermcare.com,
90% chance
yep,
if you and your spouse reach 65, there's a 90% chance one of you
yes,
will reach age 90, or a 60% chance one of you will reach age 90.
yes, exactly. Yep. And there's a 70% chance one of you will need long-term care. And actually it's about 1 out of every 3 now, or 2 out of every 3, I should say, will need long-term care. For those who live over 65, 2 out of 3 will need long-term care.
Yep.
That's unbelievable. I mean,
Well, and that stat is getting larger by the day,
yes,
unfortunately.
it
So,
is. Yeah.
but family considerations in that same vein, Tony, is, at some point, if you do need care, you do want to be accessible to your children. I mean,
Yes.
if you go into a facility in Ohio and your closest child is in Florida, how much of a hardship is it going to be for them to be able to get back frequently to
Yes.
care about you and to see about you? It's going to be very difficult. So,
Yeah.
some of the things you might want to think about is when staying might be the better choice. I'm not telling you to move or not to move, but we did pros and cons of each. So let's talk about just neutral. Why might you stay where you are? Maybe your mortgage is paid off, and the property taxes and insurance are not that bad. I don't know where you are, but send me a postcard, because my goodness, our taxes are certainly not the case. Strong community ties. Maybe your home is one of the few that Tony and I are talking about that's on that same flat level, that maybe it might not be more complicated than just widening some doors, right?
Right.
That might be in and of itself a huge savings, because maybe you don't have to do the level of renovation. So folks, we have so many choices in retirement, but the question is, how many of us actually sit down and go through them and run the numbers and think about all the major decisions, and take our time so that we don't rush these decisions. And that's what I think retirees today really need to think about, Tony. uh, when you start thinking through your plan and you're talking to your financial advisor, don't be afraid to ask some of these questions. And really, if you're not getting answers to these types of questions, you need to ask yourself why. Because if that's the case, you probably have a salesman, you don't really have a financial planner, because a
Right.
planner not only helps you think through where your investments are located or how your income is produced, but also some of your life choices. Should you stay or should you go, as the title insinuates, your house. Should you purchase your vehicle now? Should you lease it? Should you downsize to one vehicle? Should you keep two? All of these things bring costs, bring opportunities, and bring challenges. The problem is, are we really getting the guidance we need, or are you just getting the guidance that you're settling for? Don't settle. That's why, folks, if you're out there and you're not getting this level of guidance, give us a call. 877-269-0839. That's 877-269-0839. Let us help you make the decision that's going to be positive for you and for your family in retirement.
Excellent. Well, Travis, great show. Should I stay or should I go? A question everyone's going to need to answer as they plan for retirement. Thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning in, listeners and viewers. That does it for today's episode of Navigating Your Retirement with our host, Travis Chance.